Hey guys, Complex here. There were some odd trends in the NES days that resulted in some pretty odd games. Today we're going to talk about one of the oddest of them all, Incredible Crash Dummies.
There are thousands of classic games and just as many ways of rating them. But if you love retro games as much as I do and just want to know if a game is worth playing, then only one question need be answered.
Incredible Crash Dummies is a typical side-scroller with a few differences to make it interesting. But do they make it fun? Let's find out. When cars were first invented, they didn't come with seatbelts. They came with horses. Once people figured out how to make cars without horses, they still didn't come with seatbelts. As a result, lots of people inadvertently found themselves very closely connected with their steering wheels. Governments thrusting their safety propaganda upon the populace made wearing seatbelts the law. To this end, they ran a very successful youth indoctrination program starring the crash test dummies themselves.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
But then something unexpected happened. The Crash Dummies property took on a life of its own. A toy line was released, a cartoon, a weirdly deep-voiced one-hit wonder. And most unexpectedly of all, joining the likes of Mouth-to-Mouth Marsha and Sucking Chest Wound Chester, the Incredible Crash Dummies was licensed for video games. Mega hit factory LJN released it on Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and of course, the Nintendo Entertainment System. The story goes that Junkman wants parts so he can build an army of junk bots. He kidnaps two of the dummies. Daryl is kinda forgettable, but their pudgy friend, Spare Tire, "It's not body shaming, my mom named me that," is the stuff of nightmares. Their rescuers and playable characters are the main protagonists in the Crash Dummies line, Slick and Spin, and throughout the game you'll alternate playing as each. Spin's levels aren't so bad, just a little bland, but Slick's? Well, he inexplicably rides a unicycle, or as the booklet calls it, a wheel nut. Wheel nut? He's so bouncy and frustrating to maneuver. He rolls and slips and continues to drift even after you release the D-pad. This is annoying, but trust me, it gets worse. Because he can't jump unless his wheel nut is touching the ground. But every time he lands, he bounces a few times. Timing jumps at the precise moment the wheel is touching the ground is infuriating. Especially in this stupid test room. You have to flip timed switches, and if you miss one, the puzzle resets. But the switches are scattered across gap-filled platforms, forcing you to jump and bounce and miss jumps. It's agonizing. So the game has some frustrations. Developers decided to add a bit of humor to lighten things up. He's taken Spare Tire and Daryl, and it's obvious this was no accident. Get it? Accident? Pretty funny, huh? I mean, I know this game is for kids, but when you have to tell them that a joke is a joke, you kinda suck the funny out of it and insult their intelligence. Kids aren't dummies. Get it? Dummies? Pretty funny, huh? Graphically, Incredible Crash Dummies has some nice flourishes and three-dimensionality, which give the game a bit of charm. But in other ways, it feels lazy. Let's just stop and look at this cloud. To me, it has that toddler meets Microsoft Paint vibe. I mean, what do you see? And look at these animations. Are they dancing? What are they doing? The music is fast-paced, complex, and dare I say, borderline fun. I mean, I won't be adding it to my NES playlist, but it's not completely terrible either. As far as weapons and power-ups are concerned, your primary weapon is the exhaust gun, which only stuns the junk bots. Fortunately, there are a few other tools and power-ups you can find as well. Those will make the game more fun, right? Well, oil cans allow you to fire oil bullets so you can actually defeat enemies. Arms, yeah, that's a power-up. Arms allow you to spin on the floor, killing junk bots, making you impervious to enemies and smashers. Spare heads increase your dummy's life meter, which is depicted along the bottom as a row of severed heads. Steering wheels make you invincible, which makes absolutely no sense. I mean, shouldn't it be seatbelts?
You could learn a lot from a dummy.
Traffic cones give you points toward an extra life, and balloons make you kinda floaty so you can jump farther. It's at this point developer Software Creations must have been actively thinking, we haven't brought this game up to LJN's typically excruciating standards. How can we make the controls worse? I'll tell you, give a game with already bad controls a power-up like the rocket. It boosts your speed. Sure, that sounds like a good thing, but I don't want to speed up, and sometimes it speeds you up so much that you absolutely lose control. This rocket here in the grape jelly underbelly of the junkyard is completely unavoidable and followed by a series of difficult jumps and pits that will make your wheel nut spin. I wish that was the worst of it. It's not. Sometimes a rocket will overload you and you'll lose your head, and in real life you'll lose your mind because now your headless, bouncy, out-of-control wheel nut has reversed controls. That's just lousy. These are power-ups. Well, thankfully you can restore regular control if you find a spare head. This game is brutal. Don't touch anything. Holy smokes, when you get hit, you get vomit smacked across the level until you crash into something and explode. At first it's shocking, but quickly becomes annoying. Also, water equals death, so don't fall in. In fact, don't even touch it, because even drops of water will kill you. If you have the intestinal fortitude to somehow slog through the entire game, you'll square off against Junkman, which is surprisingly interesting and enjoyable. Other bosses include the nameless dock-level boss, which the booklet only refers to as a rat-hearted rat-fink of a sea dog pirate. Arg. Down in the sewer, you'll encounter the sewer beast. But trust me, you don't need to finish the level to face the sewer beast. You started facing that when you picked up the cartridge. And speaking of the cartridge, the label is diseased, and every copy I see looks like this. It figures that a game about dummies that fall apart would use bad glue for their labels.
We'd like our glue back now.
So that brings us to the big question. Is it fun? But let's be honest, I think we all know what the answer's gonna be. No. Surprise, surprise. LJN decided to milk another property in effort to cash in on someone else's success. And Incredible Crash Dummies was released in 1993, a full 2 years after the Super Nintendo came out. You'd expect a certain level of mastery on the NES hardware at that point, but you'd expect wrong. If you loved Tyco's successful toy line, you might be more forgiving, and maybe even enjoy it a little. Personally, I don't regret giving it a shot, but I have no intention of playing it again either. It's almost as bad as wearing this sticker on my head. Maybe you'll watch that video right there. Or maybe you'll watch that video right there. Or maybe you'll click that subscribe button above. Wheel nut? Look like an idiot with this thing on.